Hey guys, welcome to our fourth episode of the La Project with me, your host Han Royani, and with me.
BJ.
Alright, so before we start, I just wanted to, have some small talk. Have you been up to anything recently, BJ?
Nothing much. I guess, just doing my usual game streaming.
How's that going?
It's alright. It's alright. Like, I've been doing it for like 4 or 5 years now. So
Nice.
it's like, it's getting monotonous.
What games do you play?
Mostly shooters. Like Call of Duty, Apex Legends, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Slowly turning into an American, are you?
Oh, dude, I turned to American a long time ago. Have you seen our government?
Oh yeah. Oh my god. I've also been up to something recently.
Yeah, dude. Why don't you tell us? Like I heard from a little bird something happened last night.
Oh yeah, I did a stand-up set last night at Triptych for an open mic night.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's basically...
Were you hosting or were you an open micer?
I actually do hosting, but last night I was an open micer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I did a 5-minute set last night. I'm actually preparing for a show at KL Pack that I'll be doing. It's called Short and Sweet. So if any of you guys are watching and you're available at that time, please come and watch me.
When is it?
It's at the end of the month, 26th until 28th.
Oh, okay. At KL Pack.
At KL Pack.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, other than the open mic night, I'm also going to be hosting. I'll be hosting at Momo's.
Nice.
Yeah, you know Momo's? The
Yeah,
hotel?
I've heard of it. Never been there, but I heard of it.
It's actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
They have like a space for events basically.
Right.
And I've been hosting a few times there. And in October, I'll probably be hosting twice a month. So if anyone is free, it's usually on Wednesday or Thursday nights at Momo's. So if you're available, do come. I'll be hosting, and I'll also be performing I'll also be performing a stand-up set. All right.
Nice.
Okay. So, all right. I think it's time to get into it, to my monologue. All right. In Pakistan, they've recently discovered a new oil reserve that could make it the 4th largest in the world. Did you hear about this?
No, I did not. But
Right.
India is not going to be happy.
India's not going to be happy, and guess who's going to be discovering freedom?
Who?
Pakistan. lah.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a lot more than an oil reserve for them to get their freedom. It's not that easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, in France, President Macron has basically defied election results by naming the conservative Michael Barnier, who ended up as 4th, as the country's new prime minister. Hundreds of thousands have protested Barnier's appointment, calling it a coup by Macron. Despite that, there have been no condemnation from the US or other Western countries. So, what do you think about that, Jay?
I know, like, okay, the France issue, if you ask me, is very, very similar to our general election, the most recent one, where we had to form a unity government based on different parties that were, at least at the time of the election, were not on the same side. Then suddenly, like, all these parties got together and, to elect, to appoint Anwar Ibrahim as the Prime Minister. So I feel like it's not that different in that sense. I mean, I understand why states or countries like the US or the UK are not directly commenting on this, simply because their system of governance, the whole separation of church and state and how they have parliament or congress in the US, that's not really... I mean, there are similarities, of course, but the core foundation of these countries were very different, at least to how the Western ideal of democracy is like, So I feel like that's why the silence is there. However, it does seem a bit weird how the person that came in 4th can suddenly lead the country.
Yeah. I think it's more similar to, I mean, like if we were to compare it to Malaysian politics, I think this is more similar to Langkah Sheraton compared to like the last general election.
Well, I don't think so, because Langkah Sheraton was not preceded by an election. You know, like that happened in the middle of the election cycle. I think 2 years into the election cycle.
Okay.
So like 2 years or 3 years before an election is supposed to happen, or 2 years after the election happened, something like that. But that in itself, if you ask me, it was not illegal, because simply because the way our parliamentary system, our government system is set up, allows for such things to happen. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would just say that, for me, I see more similarities with what happened in the aftermath of our election, the week essentially that it took to decide who was going to be the leader of our country. I think it became that, because I think France's election was what 2-3 weeks ago, around there, right?
Yeah.
It took a while.
Yeah.
It took a while to decide,
But still,
You know.
like if you were voted fourth, or at least if there are some other parties that garnered more votes than you,
Correct.
I think you should, at least if you were to form a coalition government with that party, you should at least get someone from that party instead of someone else from a different party to lead the nation, I think.
No, you listening? Not so different, is it? They finished fourth. They lead the country. They suddenly became deputy prime minister.
You're right.
It is what it is. You know?
Yep.
Yeah, it's not so different.
You're
but
right.
you know, if you ask me how that was decided, it was definitely not decided by open air discussions or
No.
transparent meetings. It was done in the back rooms.
Yeah.
And probably Macron had a deal with
Most likely.
and things like that happened. Probably not with him specifically, but with his party, just in order to maintain hold on power.
Yeah, no, I think it's partly Macron's move.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah,
There's no question that he is the leader of that side of things in France. You
Yeah.
know? Like even Marine Le Pen, the opposition leader, like who supposedly had some case for becoming
the prime
minister.
Yeah.
Like even they couldn't, set up things properly. So
I would have thought that Macron would hire her, instead of Michael Barnier, because I think she ended up third, I think.
Yeah, that's right, Marine Le Pen.
Yeah, Marine Le Pen.
But itulah, like, if you ask me, politics is much more, especially at that level, when things, especially at that level and in today's world, where things are more polarized than it's ever been. Like the two sides, there's less of a middle ground today when it comes to any country, any issue. Like it's almost impossible to be a fence-sitter nowadays. Like if you're a fence-sitter, that's when you have no tribe, essentially.
Okay.
Everyone's on the left, everyone's on the right.
Yeah.
Everyone's conservative or liberal. There's no middle ground.
Do you think it's the way that Western countries are set in terms of their parliamentary or their government compared to Malaysia? Let's say, we don't have. Sure, we have conservative and liberal, but we have the option to form a unity government, Is that the difference? Because like in America, they only have Democrats and Republicans. And I think that is the reason why there's so much polarization. Because like on one side, they can only perpetuate their policies or to cater to their audience. So because of that, the other side will go on the opposite side just to counter their rivals.
For sure, there is or there are those kind of instances happening, like people who just want to be contrarians. I think is what you're trying to describe, right?
Yeah.
So, for sure that happens, but for the most part, I feel like there's a shift happening. Especially, it started in the States, but there's a big, I know it's used a lot, but a big paradigm shift happening where there is more of this whole thing of where you're being liberal today is not what it was even 10 years ago. that liberal, like the liberal of like the Martin Luther King, that kind of liberal, that civil rights liberal, it doesn't exist anymore.
So you're saying that
The liberal today is more about, you know, well, it was even, it's gone even further than this. But liberal today started its movement in the feminist movement, the third wave feminist movement, right?
Yeah.
The Me Too movement, some people call it, and that's where it started. The current trajectory of the liberals now, and it's gotten more and more radical to the point where it's gotten past women and it's gone to the LGBTQ community, right? So, if you ask me, that kind of polarization is happening because these people, they are minority, but for some reason people have found a common cause to fight for them, to fight for their visibility, to fight for their rights, as if they don't have any, you know, things like that. And that's all well and good, but you see a paradigm shift back to where I was, to my point, is that you see a paradigm shift now where, especially if you look at the current presidential race in the US, there's only less than 2 months left to polling day, and you see all these major Democrat personalities that were big in the Democratic Party who are not radical liberal, who are not in favor of LGBT, who are not in favor of not say lawlessness, but not in favor of defunding the police, not in favor of having late term abortions, which people are talking about, and even some governors in the US are perpetuating or writing into laws. Babies
talking about Roe v. Wade?
No, not Roe v. Wade. Like the governor of Pennsylvania, I think it was, the previous governor, who said that, who signed into law a law that says that any woman can abort a baby even in the third trimester.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so in months 7, 8, and 9, which is absolutely crazy if you ask me. Like, no matter whether you are pro-abortion or pro-life, wherever you sit on that spectrum,
that's a living.
How are you gonna kill a baby that's 7 months old? You know, like seven, like a pregnancy that is 7 months term.
That's practically a living human being.
It can be born.
It's basically murder.
Yeah. So, there are factions of the Democratic Party that do not. I think a bigger faction than people give it credit for, that do not want to go down that road. You know, so. If you ask me, people like how I mentioned before, Tulsi Gabbard, people like Brett and Eric Weinstein. One is a mathematician, and the other one's a molecular biologist. One of the world's most renowned evolutionary biologists.
Okay,
you know, so RFK, Robert Kennedy, who's also joining the Trump campaign. Yeah. So people like this is not so much about them wanting Trump to be in power, at least not from what they say, is so much so that they don't want the other side to have power, you know.
Okay. So,
you know,
are you saying that they're trying to maintain the status quo, or
no, they're trying to go against the status quo, because like people like Kamala, they don't want, like I said before, the warmongering. They don't want there to they want the perpetual wars that are happening now to keep on going.
Yeah.
That makes them money.
Yeah.
That secures them
sure.
a paycheck after they leave office.
Yeah.
You know, and people are starting to see that, and people are starting to fight back against that. You know, so if you ask me, there's a big paradigm shift. I'm glad that it's happening. You know, Thailand has had ladyboys since before I was born.
Yeah.
And no one makes an issue of it.
Yeah.
You know, they live their life peacefully. They're not trying to get rights. They're not like. Have you ever heard of Thailand ladyboys trying to get into women's bathrooms?
No.
You know, like things like that. Like they know what's what. You know, like nobody has to tell that to them.
Yeah.
What's inappropriate
They know what
is inappropriate.
Yeah.
You know, so that's unfortunately that's the case.
Do you think it's happening, like you say, there's a change coming. Do you think it's happening for the better or for the worse?
I think there's a correction happening, of course. Like every time, why the US election is so important, because you can see the cultural shifts happen every time the election happens in the US. Like when Barack Obama left office and Trump was voted in, there was such a big shift towards the conservative side.
Yeah.
And because there was such a big shift towards the conservative side, there was such a big pull of the woke side.
Trying to overcorrect.
That move back to the conservative. And that tug of war has been constantly happening. Same thing that happened when Joe Biden was elected president. He went back super woke, where even just recently in April, they declared the day of Easter, which is to Christians the day that Jesus was born, right? They turned that, the day of Easter in the United States, Joe Biden himself turned it into Trans Visibility Day. Like, how do you do that though? I'm not a Christian, of course. I'm a Muslim. I'm a proud Muslim.
Yeah.
But you don't make mockery of people's religions.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's not right. And Abrahamic faith, like Christianity, that's been around for longer than what their grandparents have been around, like for thousands of years. Like that ain't right.
Alright. Back to my monologue. Okay, from now on it's gonna get a bit depressing, guys, so bear with us. A US activist was shot in the head by Israeli snipers in Gaza. As Palestinians, not only do they have to endure a war, they're also suffering with infected wounds, maggots, and there's no escape for them. In the Gaza's humanitarian crisis has hit new lows as sanitary conditions have been plummeting. So they're currently going through a war, and there's no way for them to escape. They can't even get food, and there's no shelter and medicine for them, which is terrible. In the Russia-Ukraine war, casualties are racking up on both sides. I'm not sure if you know this, but Iran has provided ballistic missiles to Russia, which the US, UK, France, and Germany has imposed further sanctions on Iran. So, what do you think about the Russia-Ukraine war?
I think most recently I heard that there was a Ukrainian offensive into
Moscow,
into Russian space, right? I think it's the Kursk region. I think it's called. They got in. They basically control about a territory that is, last I heard, 20 kilometers wide and 40 kilometers deep, something like that, into Russian territory, which is insane.
Yeah.
As I don't know what the Ukrainians are doing, but dude, why you poking the bear?
Exactly. Russia.
It was never about Ukraine getting more territory. It was just Ukraine pushing them out. Now they're out. Why are you going on a counter-offensive? That's nuts.
Yeah. So at the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, everyone was saying that Russia is attacking Ukraine to get more land. Isn't that right?
No. Okay. More land than they currently have. But if you go into Vladimir Putin's doctrine of what he believes and what he stands for, he's always been a proponent for reconstituting the old borders of the Soviet Union.
Which is part of Ukraine.
Which is part of Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, right? So that's all he wants. He wants old borders to be reconstituted when it was still the USSR. There are problems with that line of thought, simply because one, Ukraine is a sovereign country now, sovereign nation now. So that is an issue. The issue of NATO as well, who are in Poland, which is honestly just not that far. But they have the protection of Poland.
Yeah.
Poland has the protection of NATO, and also that he basically wants NATO not to be on the borders of Russia,
because his idea, and if you study international politics or international relations, there is a very old school of thought where there cannot be just one hegemon. A hegemon is a superpower, right? So you can't just have the US. His line of thinking is that you can't just have the US as the global police, like who determines what every nation does is right or wrong. You can't do that, which has some merit, you know. But
in a way, I sort of agree with that. We can't let one nation, at least, to monopolize what should happen or shouldn't happen.
Exactly, yeah. But the problems with Russia is that they themselves have other issues, at least on a core level. One, they don't have freedom of speech, and it's not how it is in the States, you know. So it's a bit of a, if you ask me, at least from the outside looking in, it's a bit of a losing battle in the sense that if you're not going to win the hearts and minds of people by being the more oppressive force, you know, like, yeah, of course there has to be balance in the world and all that, but people are naturally going to gravitate towards more freedom.
Yeah.
You know,
I understand what you mean.
and the US, at least on the surface level, beyond what the CIA, the government is doing and all that, on the surface level, they provide that. They afford that freedom to people, you know, of saying what you want when you want. Yeah. And due to that, I feel like if Russia or China, whoever wants to be on the other end of the spectrum as a superpower, they have to at least have some form of transparency, and that transparency can only come with freedom of speech.
Yeah.
You know, and at least with the people in power now in those places, that doesn't seem to happen. Economy can be thriving.
Yeah.
You know, like
Exactly.
and all that, but the most important part, at least on a propaganda level, on influencing the hearts and minds of people level, it has to be that has to be number one, freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Because people nowadays are too educated and too interconnected, especially with the Western world.
Yeah.
Like,
And the internet.
yeah, like you and me, our generation, we are on our phones like constantly, right? For good or worse. And that gives us an insight that generations before us have never had into how the other side of the world lives. And the more we look at it, the more, especially people that are more like young people like the youth,
I agree.
always want more freedom. And that freedom gets to them. Like, that's why people want to move
To US.
Yeah, you know, things like that. And that is, to me, the one thing that Russia and China, in their attempts to become a superpower, that is the one thing that they have to solve.
I completely agree. You know, a few years back, I matched with the Chinese chick from China on Bumble.
Wow.
And when I asked her what it's like to be
citizen,
living in China, she says she can't complain.
She can't complain?
Yeah.
Literally.
Okay, so we'll be moving on to probably our last point of the show, which is the US election. By the time of the recording, the debate just happened yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah, so
The first US presidential debate for this year.
for this year between Trump and Kamala Harris.
Yep.
You watched it, of course.
Yeah, I watched it live.
Oh.
It was 9 a.m. our time. We ran all the way until 11 a.m. our time for 2 hours. And yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of things happened.
Did you watch it?
I watched it, but I didn't watch live.
Right.
I did watch the whole debate.
Okay. How many times did you watch it? You watch it once?
I watched it once.
Same. I only watched it live. I never watched it again.
Yeah, to be honest, I was cracking up the first 10 minutes.
Oh yeah?
Just listening to Trump talking and Kamala's reactions to some of his statements. Okay, before we get into anything, I get that you're a Trump guy and I'm more of a Kamala guy. I wouldn't say I'm a huge Kamala fan. But okay, what did you think of the whole
I'm not a Trump guy, dude. I'm on the side of freedom.
Okay. Okay, what did you think of Trump's performance?
Honestly, in when it comes to the debates that he's had, I think it was mentioned that this was his seventh
Seventh
presidential debate.
Yeah.
Going back to 2016. Easily his worst, in my opinion. Easily his worst showing. He seemed a bit too passive, a bit too demure, if you want to call it that. I think he was a bit too at least to start.
Yeah.
At least to start.
Yeah.
He started out at least being a bit too deferential, a bit too presidential.
Yeah.
Which he hasn't been. Like he was like that. People forget that he was like that a lot in the debates with Joe Biden in 2020.
What, presidential? Or?
Yeah. Like he because he was the incumbent president and Joe Biden was the challenger at the time. So President Trump was very aloof, was very dismissive towards Joe Biden, and especially in the first debate, if I remember, because they had 3 debates back then. Especially in the first debate, he lost because he was like analysts felt like he was too passive lah,
Too presidential.
too presidential, not
this
enough
stuff,
of the. Not enough because you'd be in jail, that kind of thing. So he didn't have enough of those, which, I mean, he didn't. But at the same time, he wasn't going up against a Hillary.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton was a very, very flawed candidate.
Yeah.
And
so was Joe Biden.
But his skeletons did not come out.
I mean,
Unlike
Hillary.
Hillary's whole deleted emails thing came out like a week, 2 weeks before the election.
Yeah.
Like that was nuclear, dude.
Yeah.
Like people didn't want to vote for her after that. Like how can you be Secretary of State and delete emails that were pertinent to your negotiations with other countries?
Yep.
That's nuts. So Biden had a similar issue. It wasn't him.
It
was his son,
yeah.
Hunter, right?
Hunter.
So, but it wasn't him. It wasn't Joe Biden specifically.
Yeah.
The Republicans over the last 4 years have tried to pin it on Joe, on how the money that Hunter received has somehow funneled towards the Biden family, which may be true, maybe not, but it's hard to pin it on Joe. There's nothing to pin on Joe. If not, he'd be impeached by now because of what he did, if he was truly involved.
Yeah.
So if you ask me, Joe Biden was not that kind of candidate for him to be doing that kind of stuff. And with Kamala, I felt like he should have stood his ground and played to his record. His record was good. His record was the economy. His record was a strong border. His record was jobs, recreation of jobs. And he did not hammer that point enough. He kept going, especially in the second half of the debate, the second hour, he kept getting baited.
He was on a defensive stance at that point.
And he wasn't defensive in an effective way. He was defensive in a dismissive way, which is, regardless of how you feel when you're in an election, when you're trying to win an election, regardless of how you feel, whether you feel like you're a hit, you feel like the other candidate is bullshit, you feel like you are the only logical choice, you don't know how many people feel that way about you. And you shouldn't take that for granted. You should always try to put your best foot forward and be like, look, hammer the point. Like, my economy was good. People had more money in their pockets when I was president. The cost of oil per barrel was such and such when I was president, compared to how high it is when under this current administration.
Okay.
Like Kamala had 3.5 years in office. She's still in office now. What's going on? Why is there nothing being done? Why is the economy still bad? He should have hammered that kind of point.
Yeah.
You know, instead he focused too much on defending himself.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah.
And being like feeling like he was impervious. Like, oh no, you can say whatever you want about me, but people know. Not necessarily. The people who watch the debates, especially, are mostly undecideds.
Yeah, okay. So I watched some of I watched the debate. And it's true that he was getting defensive. I feel like when Kamala said he was triggered when Kamala said something about his crowd size. Do you remember?
Yeah, the rally. Like
The rally.
Kamala was saying that you should go to a Donald Trump rally because
yes.
when you go to a Donald Trump rally, you stay for the first 10 minutes and then you end up leaving
Yeah.
after the first 15 minutes because everyone gets bored and doesn't talk about you and all that. Yeah.
And then he gets quite upset after that, and he kept defending himself for the next 5 minutes or so.
But my rallies are big. I have the best rallies ever.
Yeah. And I just find it funny, to be honest, because he's a president and he should be focusing on his policies. And sure, he provided some of his policies, but when asked, I forgot what it was about the plan moving forward for the country, he said he has concepts of a plan.
No, that one was in answer towards Obamacare. Like how
Okay.
what was he going to do about the Affordable Care Act, which is Obamacare.
So technically, he doesn't have a plan yet.
No, because when he was in office, in 2016, he ran on repealing Obamacare and replacing it with something more effective.
Okay.
But when he was in office, he discovered that after sifting through the plan and sifting through the act, he found that it was there was not much that can be done to improve it, because one of the things was that it was a majority Democratic Congress when he was president.
Okay.
So he couldn't get it passed through, but he could pass through amendments to the act, and that's what he did. So the overall name of the act is still the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare.
Okay.
But he still he did manage to repeal a few things, minor things in the act, in order to replace it with more effective policies. What exactly? I'm not too sure. I'm not a healthcare expert, so I'm not too sure what exactly he did. But as to his current medical plan, he doesn't have one.
Okay.
And he says that he has a team that is formulating one. Although I do admit that at this point in the debate, if you don't have one and you have to admit on stage that you don't have one, is not a good look.
Yeah.
But itulah.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
At least when technically both of them didn't really answer all the questions. They were deflecting.
No, yeah.
But at least for Kamala's part, she did provide some of her policies, which I thought were pretty good. She said she was going to give tax cuts of up to, I forgot how, 50k for new businesses.
25k.
25k.
The two that she mentioned was the 25k. One was for the 25k for first time families, first time parents who are going to buy
for their children.
a new home. One is a new home.
Yes.
25,000 off of down payment for the new home, and then another 25,000 for if you want to buy baby strollers, baby cribs, things like that for first time parents.
At least from Kamala's part, she kept implying that she was going to help the working class, or the
But
middle.
she didn't say anything that would. She didn't outline any policies that.
No,
actually would.
other than that, she didn't outline anything.
She just said that, we're gonna put more money in your pockets.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is why I feel like we should have an economist on board or on the show sometime.
Okay, we will.
A basic economist or even a basic first year economic degree student would tell you that that's not feasible, not in the current state, because inflation is high.
Yeah.
And the one thing that will increase inflation drastically is government spending. So if the government spends, they are printing the money and spending the money.
Yeah.
So they're printing more and spending more. And when they do that, it just goes through the roof, man. And that's not gonna fix the economy. And I feel like intelligent people who watch that would probably understand that.
Okay, I sort of get what you're saying, and I think I'll get to my next point lah. So because of that, because of inflation and the higher cost of living, the US somehow has to keep creating money, which I think they
You need to keep creating jobs, not money.
Okay, that's
That-
one.
that's the thing, yeah.
That's one. But another thing why I'm gonna get into Israel and Palestine for a bit. This is why they allow the war to happen, to keep happening, because they can get back the money that
That would seem like the common democratic argument, but the results, 2 years of the Ukraine war, and now what, we're coming to 1 year. Are we at 1 year?
we're up to 11
October
months
7,
now.
right?
Yeah, October.
So we're almost at 1 year.
Wow.
We're almost at 1 year of no ceasefire of the
Genocide.
The genocide, yeah. So, and the money, inflation has still, been steadily high.
Yeah.
Oil prices have been steadily high. That's not going to change a thing. That money does not go back to the people. That goes to the major corporations.
You're right, but at least it helps keep America going, I guess, in terms of financial.
No, they're
But,
not.
I mean, like not for the people, but for the upper.
The national debt is still increasing.
It's still there.
Like you could pull it up right now and it'll go faster than that clock. No joke. You can pull it up right
they're
now.
up to
it'll go-
trillions of debts now, which is
And
crazy.
You remember what Kamala said in the debate
what did she say?
about Israel Palestine?
Oh, she said she wanted to have a ceasefire or something.
Yep. Okay, you're on the right point.
Yeah.
What did she say right after that?
Remind me, Jay.
She said we had to rebuild Gaza. We had to rebuild Rafah. What does that mean?
Is it
Who's going to rebuild?
most likely Israel?
No. Think about it. Who's going to rebuild? Look at Afghanistan. Look at Iraq.
Oh,
Who
so you're
rebuilt that
saying
shit?
Hamas?
No.
Then?
Who rebuilt? Who built back all the hospitals, all the major infrastructure in these war-torn areas?
Other countries.
Halliburton in Iraq.
Okay.
In Iraq, okay. The one company that basically provides all the food for the military, all the portable toilets, all the residential spaces on the military bases are all provided by Halliburton.
Wow. Okay.
You know who was the president of Halliburton?
Who?
Dick Cheney. And you know who just endorsed who just endorsed Kamala Harris?
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Okay. So basically,
So it all fits, dude. And you know how much Halliburton got for those contracts?
I don't know,
Those were the
billions.
contracts to just provide sustenance and sustainability to the military. What about to rebuild? What about to rebuild the hospitals? To rebuild the schools? To rebuild the government offices?
Did they not use the money to rebuild?
Yeah, but who is being given the contracts? Who are the contractors that are going to rebuild those places? Who are actually going to physically build them? Halliburton. So the money is not. People think that the military industrial complex, the money is in buying the jets, buying the missiles, buying the rockets, buying the small arms. It's not.
So
the
the
real
money
money is in rebuilding. Because when you rebuild, and any contractor will tell you this, you quote someone and you try to work under your quote. Correct? You keep the profit.
Yeah.
Right? And at that scale, what do you think the profit is going to be? What do you think the contract is going to be?
Billions.
In Iraq though, you think anyone's going to care? You think anyone in the States is going to care of the quality of buildings in Iraq? Or the quality of buildings in Gaza? Or the quality of buildings in Afghanistan?
Maybe not. But
Nobody cares. No one in the States cares. So they can build, say, for a hospital, they are given 200 million to build a hospital. They can build a hospital for 20. Where's that
you're
180
right,
going?
Yeah.
Where's that 180 going?
Yep.
Back into the politicians' pockets. That's why Hillary Clinton can be paid 250,000 for a single speech.
It's an evil world we live in.
Yeah,
man.
dude. But that goes to show. My point is that goes to show why Kamala is now being
endorsed by all these war hawks, by people like Dick Cheney, by his daughter Liz, who is also in Congress, who is also in favor of both wars, of Israel and of Ukraine.
Okay.
Who's going to rebuild Ukraine?
No, I think the American people will care if they find that, you know, the money that is going to rebuild these places are actually coming from their tax dollars.
They left 80 billion in weapons. 80 billion. When they left Afghanistan, they left 80 billion US dollars worth of weapons, small to big arms. Who gave a shit? Who gave a shit? I'm literally asking, who gave a shit? No one. No one. Is anybody in the US government or in the US population going, we should get our military to go back and get those weapons back? Has anybody said that?
No.
No, not a single person.
So you're saying they just left it there so that it can be used to cause more destruction, which will then allow them to rebuild those places?
How did Osama bin Laden become Osama bin Laden? It was exactly that. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton wanted to be friends with not be friends lah, but they wanted to have an alliance with Central America, you know, Nicaragua and all that, and also have a footing in the Middle East, and they up both, and suddenly they supplied the arms for Osama bin Laden to start Al Qaeda.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you don't think that's going to happen again?
It will.
Look at what they did. They left $80 billion worth. In their whole lifetime, the Taliban was not going to garner $80 billion worth of American technology.
No.
They were using AKs from Russia. Think about that. They were using AKs from Russia. And now, they have rockets, they have jets. So, no, dude, if you ask me, yes, Kamala won the debate.
Yeah.
No doubt. She won the debate. But that's only because you cannot fact check during the debate.
Yeah. I was wondering about that because no one
fact checked her.
Yeah.
But they fact checked
They
him
fact checked Trump.
9 times.
Yeah.
9 times. You know? They fact checked him 9 times. But no one fact checked her.
Yeah.
So, look, that kind of skullduggery is going to happen. It's politics. And you are competing, the both of them are competing for the most powerful job in the world. Bar none. The most powerful job in the world.
It's probably the most influential job in the world.
You're not going to play dirty?
Of course.
Someone's going to play dirty.
Yeah.
You know? So, if you ask me, that's how it is though. And yes, Kamala won. She won fair and square, the debate, at least on how people saw it. But you should be wary. Everyone should be wary of the things that she has said.
Yeah.
Especially during the debate.
Yeah, I noticed that, I mean, like the fact that no one fact checked her and the fact that she didn't really answer a lot of the questions because I remember one of the first questions she was asked, like, what were you going to do for the economy once you are elected president? And then she said, I grew up as a like a poor working class kid. That's how she started. And she basically just...
There's a lie too, you know?
Yeah.
She went to boarding school in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
she was as a kid. Yeah, that was all a lie, dude. That was all a lie. So yeah,
that's crazy, man. But okay, well, I hear that Kamala is looking forward to have a second debate. So,
yeah, she feels that she won, so she wants to turn the knife.
Yeah. So what do you think Trump's strategy should be for the next one?
Stick to his policies. And whenever she tries to goad him like she did, like bait him like she did, just ignore it or shut her down. Like, because he had some moments where, quiet please, I'm speaking.
Yeah.
Does it sound familiar? Like, he should have those kind of moments more. You know? And, you know, like when she's making those stupid faces at him, call her out on it. Call her out on it. Like there's no two ways about it. Like, call her out on it. Like, don't be defensive about it. Don't be like, oh, she's a woman, I'm going to treat her like this, like that. No. She wants equality. Give her equality. You know? If it was a man standing there, if it was Mitt Romney, if it was Barack Obama, if it was Joe Biden,
he'd flame into that dude. So do the same.
I mean, he did with Hillary also, but I wonder
he did.
why he didn't do it with Kamala. Is it because like she's? I mean, like, of course she's a woman, but she's also like half Indian and half
Jamaican.
Half Jamaican. I think there was a question that the moderator asked, asking Trump about what he thought Kamala's race was. Yeah,
And
and then
he said he didn't care.
he didn't care.
Yeah.
And then
So she can be black, she can be Indian, she can be whatever she wants. It doesn't matter to me.
yeah, but okay, that's the thing. Like, I think Trump, maybe for him, it didn't matter. But
Why does he bring it up?
why does he bring it up?
To show that she's a flip-flopper. She flip-flops on everything. It's like she said no fracking. Now she wants to frack.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
She said when it was during the BLM riots, she was one of the people that were calling for defund the police in Seattle, defund the police in, I think Minnesota it was, defund the police in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
You know, she was the ones calling for that. And then suddenly, oh no, I do not want to defend the police. That's not true. So,
Okay,
I know, man.
You could say the same about like Project 2025.
Which Trump has already disavowed.
Yeah.
He has already said that he has nothing to do with that. That's just some right-wing QAnon conspiracy thing.
Oh, so it was QAnon that came out
like
with that.
how she said that he's going to sign an abortion ban, national abortion ban. Remember she said that in the debate?
Yeah.
That's not true either. That was about the Roe v. Wade, right?
Yeah.
So Roe v. Wade states that every woman shall be given the ability to decide when she wants to have
An abortion.
in the States, right?
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court, not Trump, the Supreme Court decided to roll back Roe v. Wade and gave that power of to decide when abortions are legally allowed to happen, like what month or what trimester is allowed to happen, give that decision back to the states. So each individual state can decide, okay, for example, in Alabama, you can't have an abortion more than 2 months after
After
pregnancy.
being pregnant.
Yeah, so you can't do that, for example. And then maybe in Philadelphia, it's 7 months where the legal limit stops. So
7 months.
I'm not too sure,
Okay.
but before this, it was literally up to 9 months
Wow.
in Philadelphia. So
That's crazy.
That shit's crazy. And yeah, so you have and Trump has always said that no, I am not in favor of a national abortion ban. I'm not in favor of banning IVF, which Kamala said
she's saying,
he was going to do. In fact, not even 2 weeks ago, a week ago, Trump said he is for IVF in his rallies. That he's been saying that he is going to encourage more policies to encourage IVF in parents or couples that need it. You know, so and why if he is against abortion, like he says he is, why would he ban IVF? It doesn't make sense. You know, if you're going to ban IVF, then you're going to ban abortions because you don't want to have more kids around.
Which one is
Which one is consistent with your values? You
Exactly.
know? So yeah, that's all it is.
Okay. I think that's it.
Yep.
That's all the time we have for today's show. But don't worry, if you are looking to learn more about the US presidential debate or any or more political news and social news around the world, we'll be continuing to do that in the next episodes.
Yep.
So, any last words before we finish this episode?
No, I just like to say, I guess that people, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation around. We try to give you what are the realest opinions we have, and we try to give you the news for what it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, don't take our word for it.
Yeah.
Listen to other people, talk to other people, read other things, and develop your own opinions. Be an intelligent human being for yourself, and hopefully we'll have a better future.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good remark. Don't just watch one news channel. Watch as many as you can, and then you develop your own thoughts and do what you want with the information that you've garnered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, I think that's it for today's episode. Looking forward to see you guys on the next one. Right, see you.
Peace.
Let's go.